The tip of the tongue, the teeth, the lips. The tip of the tongue, the teeth, the lips. Tonight? Today? Whatever time. This week, Gavin and the Blowfish make a radiator support and make some lines for a oil cooler. What else did we do?
That's kind of it, but both involved quite a lot of work.
Yeah, we're not as...
Hey, Project Binky are on like episode 250, like...
Yeah, that's right. We are, you heard it here, folks, better than Project Binky.
It's almost like the editor of the videos has intentionally slowed down the pace because we were catching up to real life.
We'll have to have a word to him. Back to the studio. Less panic, more oil cooling. You drive a slow car as fast as you can, and that's fun. We're building a slow car as fast as we can. We promise, we're really trying.
There's not much more to say, I guess. Enjoy the video. So after an unnamed team member put poor Sonny in the fence at the Thunderdome, we had to cut out quite a lot of the front end and replace it with bits from our parts corona. When we replaced the parts, we replaced this piece, and then we also made our rad support removable for easy access in and out of the motor. What we didn't really consider was we then also put bonnet pins through the rad support, which put a twisting load on here. And that combined with the fact that I'd probably not done enough sheet metal welding meant that the weld started to crack. So the plan is to install a new radiator support made of round stock. It will bolt to here, and we'll remove around here, remove all this, and then the radiator will mount to that, and the whole thing will be removable nice and easily. So the areas of the front of the car are cut out now. Just gonna clean up that lip and clean up the cuts a little bit. And then the plan is I'm gonna scan this side, the side that's not bent, and I'll make a little plate that fits on here, and I'll make the same plate on this side that indexes off these two holes and these two holes so that I can make it the same on both sides. So if I've edited this correctly, the last thing you saw was me 3D scanning the front of Sonny in preparation for making some CAD designs and then getting some laser cut parts so that everything's nice and symmetrical and blah, blah, blah. But it's now 2 weeks until we race and my laser cut parts didn't arrive, so ignore all of that, I'm gonna make the bits by hand. So my plan is to replicate what I made in tape over there with this bit of steel. Let's give that a bit of a clean up, and I'll make that side and then I'll replicate it on this side, and then it'll be symmetrical-ish. That's the tape template tidied up and laid out on steel. I'll probably drill the holes in it before I cut it out, just because this is only thin. I don't want to warp it. And then I'll make sure it's right on the car, and then I'll make the other side. So this fits in like that, and I'll weld that on, located with these two holes, which are just through holes. I'm going to put some M6 rib nuts in here, so what I'm thinking I'll do is I'll drill out these holes to the outside diameter of the M6 rib nut flange so that that will locate it properly, rather than just having the bolt through hole. And then on the other side, those holes are threaded, and so I don't have to worry about that. And then these holes are for the front rad support to attach to. Jesus, how thick does that paint go on? Holy shit. So the bracket for the left side's done now. So I oversized those holes to fit over the riv nut flanges so that it locates on there like that. And so I'll bolt that on here and here just to locate it, and then I'll stitch around the edges, and then the holes at the front here are where I'll drill holes in the body as well, and probably put nuts on the back to attach our radiator support. Now we've got 2 bits of plate that line up nicely. I'll bolt this one onto the bent side of the car, thusly, and try and make it a bit less bent until that's all straight, and then I'll be pretty confident it's symmetrical. That's bolted on now, and you can see it's got quite a nice curve to it. So I'll try and just get that straight by bashing out that way, and then I'll try and get it to fill that gap so I can stitch it all on. Looking all right. I just need to flare this bit back this way so I can weld to it, and we'll be good.
Kitty's worried about filming this because the engine bay's dirty.
What we're doing is we're don't know how much we've talked about it because we haven't done a what?
You just talk over everyone.
Well, this is my thing. Gav's being a dick. We haven't shown our parts goodie haul yet, but we've got a bunch of stuff to hopefully help with our cooling system. So whilst our race block is off being race prepped, we've got our backup engine block, which we're going to chuck in the car to mock up where the oil cooler lines are going to go and where the oil cooler's going to go, and we've got a remote filter housing, all that sort of stuff. So before we order a bunch of fittings, we just want to sort of mock it all up and see where it's all going to go. So we're going to chuck that in now and then start playing with some stuff, I reckon.
All right, Kit, what are we doing?
All right, this is what we're doing. So these are our goodies. Number one, this is a takeoff plate. What this does is this threads onto where your oil filter goes and has 2 outputs for your lines.
Did you say one of those is an input?
Yeah. 1 input, 1 output for your lines.
Which one does the oil come out of and which one does the oil come into?
That's in. So this
Goes out the output in the
replaces the filter and gives you an output and an input for oil lines. That's puzzle 1 piece.
Remember that'll be important later.
Yeah, that'll be important later. Puzzle piece number 2. This is a remote filter housing. So the lines will come out of that into this with our bigger oil filter, so it's a little bit more capacity as well. This also has an inbuilt thermostat with then lines, an in and an out line to go to an oil cooler, and the thermostat, that just helps the engine warm up a little bit quicker. And then puzzle piece number 3 is a relatively small oil cooler, which is going to go in front of the radiator. Our reasoning for this is so that we're just going to overcool the engine as much as possible and then reduce a little bit of airflow or something as needed. So that's just the better way to do it.
I think that's a perfectly respectably sized oil cooler.
Yeah, but if we ever go bigger engines or whatever, we can reuse all this stuff and we can just go slightly bigger oil cooler or whatever. So what we've done now is we've got the backup block in the car. We're going to work out where we're going to mount the oil filter relocation kit and all that stuff, get some lines sort of in place, and then figure out what sort of fittings we're going to need, whether we need 90 degrees or straights or whatever. And we're thinking the oil cooler is going to be about here in front of the radiator. And so we're just, with the catch can and everything, we're just trying to figure out where best to mount this to make it easy for maintenance.
I think like here would be a pretty good spot for it.
Yeah, or like, what if we had a little bracket coming off there? That's where the radiator is. How wide's the radiator?
About that way.
About yay wide?
How long is a piece of radiator?
Cam, when you're doing, because you're doing that front bit, you're going to have to make a mount for this.
Yeah. I quite like making mounts.
Oh, that fan.
The fan is not the problem.
The fan's not the problem on track. It's
the
definitely
fan's the problem when it can come off. That radiator needs a clean.
Like, what if it was hung off, we extended this out a little bit?
Got some new AN parts today, and I got Gavin a little surprise because he needed one, so just gonna go give it to him now.
Rocket Bunny do stuff that like makes some stuff look like muscle cars, but little Japanese.
Yeah, there's an S13 kit, I think.
Gavin, here's your
S14 movie.
here's your present.
You. Look what he's done to us.
Why'd you do that?
Well, it's like the only one that we're not going to be able to see, so I thought it'd be funny.
We will be able to see it.
Oh well, I knew how much you hated it. So, of course, in SubPar fashion, all the oil cooler stuff we've bought, it all is great apart from the one piece that has to actually interface with any of the previous stuff. So the takeoff plate that converts the oil filter landing to just 2 AN outputs, the O-ring was too big for the landing, so I wasn't going to seal, so we had to buy another one, this fancy nice one. And I'm hoping now this one will fit. This is only the mock-up engine, but you can see now that O-ring should seal pretty nice on there, so.
It's good that he never interrupts anyone else when they're doing pista camera.
That is good.
So that just threads on there where the oil filter's meant to be.
Is that right?
Have some lines coming out, running along the chassis rail to our remote oil filter housing, then up the in front or sideways to the radiator, the oil cooler. So yeah.
So yeah.
Just gonna start mocking up some lines for our new oil cooler stuff, so finally get to do some nice race car stuff. Gonna get this end of the hose cut up and start chucking some AN fittings together. So this end shoves in. No! Scratch the anodine! This end gets shoved in here. Until it's flush up to there. This isn't a lesson, I'm just talking myself through the lesson that I watched on YouTube last night. And then what you want to do, put this bad boy in your fancy drawers. And then you want to mark just the bottom bit of here on the hose to see if when you thread in the top bit of the fitting, if it pushes the hose back out. Black is probably not the best colour to use for this, but yeah, good camera work, Gav.
You see that?
Then it reckons a little bit of lube. Then we thread this bad boy in. And then we grab our fancy new tool. We thread this bad boy in whilst kind of holding up the hose.
I reckon that aluminium on aluminium sound is scratching your anodizing.
Yeah, but it's on the tool, not on the fitting, which is what's important.
Mate, but then your tool's gonna look all ugly.
You don't want an ugly tool. You use a fitting once. You use the tool for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And then you want just like a fingernail gap between these. You don't want these bits to touch, but you do want them to line up so that it doesn't look ugly. So that's about good.
It's very difficult to focus on this black thing.
Yes. But anyway.
There is, believe us, there's a little gap in between.
Yeah, I'll show you. See, so there's a little gap between these two halves of the fitting. So that's 1 out of like 10 fittings to go. But we can start getting them locked up now, so.
Sweet.
As you can see, Gavin modelling here. We have the layout of the rad support ready. We'll set the welder to radiator support, I reckon, and then glue it up.
This bar has been finish welded in. No tacks, just that's how it's going to stay. I think it's probably important to mention that Cam eyeballed this, and that's about as bang on as you could ever hope your radiator placement to be.
I am like it didn't really matter if the radiator was leant backwards or forwards a little bit, so I didn't put that much effort into measuring it and all of that, but I am pretty happy that the radiator's sitting straight up and down because it makes me look good.
Yeah. Got the real micrometers out. Calibrated eye.
Front rad support is now all welded up. Next job will be to start placing stuff in position and figuring out mounting solutions. So I've got the new rad support all tacked up. Just going to chuck the radiator in and make sure it all fits because it's been a really hot, unpleasant weekend and I can't remember what I measured, what I eyeballed, what I guessed. So just hope this fits. Yeah, nice. So all those holes on the radiator bracket line up perfectly. So one of the several uses of the rad support is to mount the bonnet pins. So I've made this bracket, which will go on thusly, and the bonnet pin will bolt to that. It's a little bit ugly, but it has to clear the radiator, and it's the same on the other side. So I think it's an okay solution. So this rad support structure, whatever you want to call it, is basically done. The only thing left is to add mounting provision for this ugly bit of mesh, because last time we did the ugly bit of mesh because we didn't have time to figure out how to mount blank headlights and things, and this time it's the same reason. And then the race after this is going to be at night, so we're going to have to mount actual headlights. So we're just going to do this for now, even though it's not particularly pretty.
Did you have fun?
I had fun. This was, I think...
Sorry, Nick kind of ruined my flow, but that's all right.
You
We
can
can skip
follow
past it.
along and build lines with us in that episode, just like play school.
It was.
Is that what's your favourite window?
In the comments,
Oh.
tell us about
we've covered
Arch is the
this.
best window. Yeah. Rank the windows.
Square, obviously,
But
like
Arch is number 1. Rank 2 to 4 on the what is the best windows, please, in the comments.
Mate, if you want a diamond window.
I prefer a square.
Yeah, diamond windows, get out of here.
Way harder to make a diamond window. Like physically put one in a house. Much more annoying, and therefore better.
Oh, and circle better because it's on a ship.
True.
Diamond worst window.
Lots of stress concentrations in either a diamond or a square window. Half as many in an arch, none in a circle.
Yeah.
But stress
circle
in
the
a
rest of
boat is inwards. Would triangle portholes be
terrible.
Why?
Not
Well,
when you-
because triangles are so strong, so when you cut it out of something, it becomes extremely weak.
Well, a boat's basically a triangle.
Which way? From the top?
From the ends.
Sorry.
The cross section of a
Okay, sorry,
ship
yes.
is a triangle.
Yes, you're right. Front or directly
No,
straight
I
on.
reckon. I reckon.
No, container ships are like a bowl.
Dig it around.
No, but from the front. If you cut it in half transversely.
Yes, if you cut
get
it in
a
half. So
triangle.
if you cut the ship in
Anywhere but the round
if
dick
you
bit.
cut the ship in half east
bulbous
west,
bow.
it is
What
triangular.
way is the ship pointing?
Yeah, I don't
Yeah, but they come to a point at the bottom.
No, they don't.
Have you seen the bottom of a boat before? Let's
Yeah,
go
but
out and look at
ships
that
are-
one.
ships are
What's the bottom? Does it
Yeah.
come to a point?
No, but ships are different. Kip might be right.
Some
Yeah,
ships.
ships. Like,
But we're talking about like a cartoon ship.
like container.
Are we?
Well, then we may as well not even discuss
It's
it.
a play school ship. Yeah.
Oh, true, yeah, sorry. But like container ships are like real flat on the bottom.
Just for efficiency. But we're talking about strength.
No, they don't fish, they're for containers.
Hello. We forgot to make it very clear. This might be cut in earlier in the episode, but we wanted to ask a polarizing question that you could argue about in the comments to help us with the YouTube algorithm. And Gav has a good one this week. Gav, what's our polarizing question?
So I would like you all to rank the windows on Play School from 2 to 4. Obviously, the arch window is number 1.
Yeah. This can be taking into account the stress concentrations they would introduce if they were in a ship, aesthetic as a porthole, aesthetics, or any other factors you would like.
Yeah. Yeah, triangles, weak. even though it's not one of the windows, because you're cutting a triangle out of something, and a triangle is a strong shape. I think we covered that in the argument.
Hilarious joke, Gav. Nice one.
Thanks.
So
A big part about motor events racing is raising money for Rare Cancers Australia. There should be a link down below where you can click on that link, and
At that webpage, you'll be able to select the team you're donating for and the event that you want that donation to go towards.
donate some money to Rare Cancers Australia. And if you're really feeling generous, you can donate money to Rare Cancers Australia on our behalf. The next race that we'd like you to donate for is the Malala 24-hour. Is it got a funny name?
The Malala M24 2025. And as always, if you could please help us out with the YouTube algorithm by feeding it some likes and subscribes and some hitting the bell icons. That'll give you a notification whenever we post, which will be incredibly annoying, but only once every 2 weeks, so you'll be right. That would help us out immensely. Thank you. And we'll see you on the next one.
on that bombshell, good night.
Yeah, lucky I got that out before Kim made a bad joke.